Hello everyone and welcome to Cover 2 TV. I'm Steve Hoare and I'm here to answer some of your questions all about the upcoming NFL draft. We asked you guys on Twitter to send us some questions. If you go into the channel now, you'll see that me and Chris have already discussed some of them, but the ones that were draft specific, well, I'm going to answer them all on my own because that's kind of my remit on the show. It's the kind of thing I like doing, whereas Chris isn't into the draft as so much. And Geno isn't here because, you know, Geno just does what he wants. He's like a vampire. He just appears every now and then and we kind of put up with him. So yeah, let's move on to the first question. Andy asks, what should the Green Bay Packers draft objectives be with 12 picks and a number of holes in defense, as well as aging star players? Well, as you all know, if you're new to the channel, you might not know, but I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so this is a subject near and dear to my heart. Objectives, I think they have to get another player in the secondary. I thought King was a good pickup last year, but I still think they are very, very short in that area. You know, they brought back Devon House. He was okay, I suppose. He wasn't fantastic. He was fine. Demarius Randall got a few interceptions, but I don't think he's the answer there either. Quentin Rollins has been injured a lot, and I'm not sure he's particularly that good either. So the Packers, for the first time in a long time, are picking quite high up in the draft. It's the first time they haven't made the playoffs for a while. I would hope that they would go after a secondary player. I've got my eye on Mike Hughes, the cornerback. If they can get him, it'd be great. Denzel Ward perhaps might be gone by that stage. The ultimate would be Minkah Fitzpatrick, but I would be very, very surprised if he was at that stage. Green Bay do have a lot of picks. I say they have 12. Could they maybe do a package to move up in the draft and get one, you know, get a Fitzpatrick or get a Ward? Maybe, perhaps it's not really the done thing in Green Bay, but we do have a new GM, so maybe he's going to move away from Ted Thompson's old philosophy and maybe trade up. I think that's key. Also, I think they need another pass rusher, someone rushing off the edge. You know, Nick Perry did well last year to an extent, but I don't think he's not a number one. You'd want someone else to go with him, so they could go in that direction. Perhaps maybe someone like a Marcus Davenport, who's very much an edge rusher, but again, at that point in the draft, he may be gone. Linebacker, people talk about. I think the linebacking core is pretty much okay, especially if the plan is to move Clay Matthews to inside linebacker again. So if they do that, then they will need someone on the edge. Offensively, I think they probably could do with a tight end. Obviously, the whole situation didn't quite work out with Martellus Bennett, so perhaps another dynamic tight end, but that wouldn't be someone you take, you know, mid-first round. That could be something later on in the draft. But I think if the Packers can come out with a first round secondary player and maybe a second round pass rusher, and then perhaps further along the line a tight end / pass catcher. Other than that, the roster's pretty good. So I would be quite happy. Like I say, I think they are picking in the teens. I think I would like them to go secondary. I think that is the biggest need, and like I say, pass rush as well. Moving on, Pittsburgh Steelers UK at UK Steelers on Twitter asks, assuming the Cleveland Browns select a quarterback with their first pick, which I really hope they do, what would be their best selection with their fourth overall pick? Saquon Barkley, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Bradley Chubb, another, or possibly even a trade. Like, yeah, the Browns have 2 of the top 4 picks. It's kind of unprecedented to have that many high picks, and I agree they should pick a quarterback with number 1. I think they will do. So what should they do with 4th pick? Trade is an option, but the Browns have got so many draft picks that I'm not sure. They just keep trading and eventually you've got to start picking some players. If Saquon Barkley, the running back, is there, they should definitely take him. I think he's the best running back prospect I've seen for a long, long time. I think he's absolutely brilliant. In terms of my own grading and how I grade these things, I've given him a higher grade than I give to Ezekiel Elliott, than I give, you know, to the likes of Todd Gurley, to Leonard Fournette. I've got him graded higher than those. Will he turn out better than those 3 players? Well, he'll go some. But if I was them, I think I would take him. If he isn't there or they decide to go elsewhere, I do think Minkah Fitzpatrick, you know, the secondary player from Alabama, I think he would be a very, very good choice. Pass rusher, Bradley Chubb, again, is another fine option. He's a very, very good player. They did go pass rush with the number 1 pick last year, so would they double down and go, you know, pass rush? You can never have enough players who are sacking the quarterback, and especially for Cleveland. So I wouldn't be at all, you know, angry or disappointed if they took him. He's a very, very good player. I hope they take the pick. I hope they don't trade it away. They've been trading too many picks for a long time. I'm not sure it's worth it. I think they definitely should pick a quarterback at 1 and then the best player who they can get their hands on at 4. For me, I think that should be Barkley. Moving on to Sam Brown on Twitter asks, What's the earliest that Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen could be a feasible NFL starter? Josh Allen is a very, very boom or bust. I think, his ceiling is ridiculous. His floor is very, very, he could bottom out very, very quickly. His physical skill set is unbelievable, and someone will fall in love with him, and he will go in the first round. The floor, well, he's been very inaccurate throughout his career at Wyoming. He lacks a bit of patience. He gets a bit of happy feet in the pocket because he's so much more gifted than all the players he was playing against. It was kind of the Josh Allen show. In the NFL, he probably doesn't need to do that. He doesn't want to be doing that. He can play to his scheme. When could he start? It really does. Again, it really does depend on who he's playing for. Some schemes or some schemers, like for example, we saw what Jared Goff was able to do. I think in his second year, although that was his second year, it was his first year under Sean McVay, and the throws were defined for him. And then I think a lot of quarterbacks could have went in there. If you're asking him to go into a complex scheme where he has to read coverages and move progression from first, second, third progressions, I think that will take him some time because he's not been used to doing it. So it depends really on where he lands. If he goes in the top 10, which again, a lot of people think he might do, I'm not sure he would start straight away. If he goes to somewhere, maybe there's talk that the Bills might trade up for him, I actually think he could do okay in the Bills scheme straight away. Again, as long as they start planning their routes for him, don't make him have to read progression after progression after progression. An offensive coordinator somewhere is going to have to level their playbook down a bit for Josh Allen until he learns, and then if he does learn and does develop, he could be a star because the physical skill set is there for all to see. It's absolutely ridiculous. The arm is ridiculous, the size, the athleticism, it is all there. He just needs to work on the mental aspects and also his footwork. Both could do with some work. Alan Cole asks me, any ideas on who perhaps a day 2 or day 3 draft steal could be? I've come up with a few players who I think are going to go in that range, day 2, day 3. I think who could be very, very good. The first is linebacker Leighton Van Der Esch from Boise State. Linebacker is often a devalued position. People don't value linebacker as good. But Van Der Esch, I think he's very athletic. He's very, very good against the run. He can zone cover as well, which is becoming more and more important for linebackers in the NFL. Like I say, sideline to sideline is pretty good. I think he could be he's probably going to go around early day 2, somewhere between 40 and 50. And I think that'll be pretty good value. I think he'll be a plug-and-play player straight away. I've got defensive back Cameron Kelly from San Diego State. Any team who plays almost a physical style, who wants their corners to be big, rangy, so I'm thinking a Seattle, an Atlanta, Houston, Jacksonville, all use a very that kind of mould, perhaps more Jacksonville than Houston. Then, a 6'2" safety who's 6'2" corner who can play safety, but is also very, very good at the line of scrimmage. I think he would be a good pickup for Seattle somewhere, second, third round. He fits that type of scheme. Gets physical at the line, big, rangy. I think he's going to be a very good player for somebody if he goes to the right scheme. If someone asks him to cover deep back against quick, shifty wide receivers, that's not going to be his game at all. You're picking the wrong guy. But like I say, someone who can get physical at the line, just use the sideline as his friend, be strong. I think he could be a very good pickup for somebody on day 2 and 3. The wide receiver position in this draft, I don't think is particularly strong. I think, especially at the top, I don't think it's particularly good, and one of my answers later probably gives that away. But one player I do like is Southern Miss wide receiver Corey Robertson. 6'1", 210. He's probably going to run at the combine, I imagine, somewhere between 4'4" and 4'5". The production's been there, again, not the highest level at Southern Miss, but the production's been there. 76 catches, 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. I think he could be someone who, you plug in and play straight away. We saw someone, for example, like a Cooper Kupp, who went in and had a real impact in Los Angeles. He wasn't a heralded player, but he went in and made a huge difference to the Rams. I like Corey Robinson. I think he's going to be a very good player for somebody, again, if the scheme's right. I don't think you can argue with that production, to be honest. Like I say, the raw skill set is there, and I think he will be there on day 2. And I think someone will get a very good deal if they get him somewhere around the 50 range. I think that's a good pickup. And then finally, Robbie Coombe asks, who is your prediction for the biggest bust in the draft and the biggest shock start? For biggest bust, I've gone for Calvin Ridley, wide receiver, Alabama. Now, I do think he's a very good player. I think he's a good receiver. But the talk, if you read mock drafts and everyone and other people talking, is that he's going to be a top 10 pick. A lot of people have him drafted, for example, number 8 to the Chicago Bears overall, and that's a need-based pick. Chicago are desperate for wide receiver help. They've got nothing there, but I don't think Ridley's skill set is good enough to be a top 10 NFL pick. I think he's a late first, early second round type of talent. He's going to be 24, I think, by the time he starts in the league, and his production has dipped throughout college, which would be a concern for me. You know, players tend not to get better at 24. They kind of are what they are. If he's a 20-year-old player and his curve's going up, then by all means you can see it. But the fact that he's 24 and his production's actually gone down, I think that's a risky pick. If he does go somewhere in the top 10, 15, I think that's far too high. And I think that's a bit bust material. I think he would end up being a fine second wide receiver for somebody, maybe a WR2-3. I don't think he's a number one surefire NFL, you know, like I say, number one receiver. And if you're picking in the top 10, that's kind of what you want. So I think he could be a bust, you know, based on projections of where he's going to go as of today. The biggest shock star, I think Louisville quarterback Lamar Jackson could be absolutely anything. I think his athleticism is absolutely ridiculous. And if you draft him and you commit to building your offense around him, you let him run about, you let him use those skill sets. When a play breaks down, he is absolutely unbelievable. He has got a few technical flaws as a passer that I think, you know, I think you can iron out. First of all, his base is far too narrow. He just needs to open his feet up a bit. And I think from there, that would automatically make him a better passer. And I think, you know, NFL coaches will see that and develop that. If he lives up to the potential, he could be absolute. He could be like what Deshaun Watson was for Houston. And again, Deshaun Watson looks like he's going to be a star, and he went in the late 20s in the draft. I think if Jackson develops like he could develop, he too could be in that range. There's a lot of very good quarterbacks, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is taken somewhere between 10 and 15. And if he is, I think he could genuinely be a star. I think Darnold, I think Rosen, I think Mayfield, I think Allen have all been projected to be pretty much, you know, nailed on start and eventually down the line. Whereas Jackson, there's some people even questioning, should he be a quarterback? Should he convert to running back? Should he convert to wide receiver? For me, he's a quarterback. I think he's a viable NFL quarterback option, NFL prospect. He just needs to iron that out. But if it all works out well for Lamar Jackson, he could be seriously special. Yeah, that's it from me. So thanks very much, guys, for sending in your questions. I hope my answers were good enough. Please let me know in the comment section below if you disagree or agree with anything I've said. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Like I say, please go over to the channel and you'll see me and Chris discussing all the non-draft based questions that you guys asked. Until next week, I've been Steve Hort, that's been Cover 2 TV, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.